Great to have you here. Mr. Ben Mulroney back tomorrow. I am Alex Pierson in for him. We've certainly spent some time talking about this news that came in over the weekend about another $130 billion in new spending that Mr. Carney's government does plan to unleash, right? We've got inflation lurking, and I hear all this news. We're carrying all this, we've got $1.2 trillion, in our federal debt. And I'm like, how on earth are we going to pay for this? I don't know how we're going to pay for all this stuff. Like, are we all supposed to open OnlyFans pages? I don't know how we're going to pay for all this. I mean, when you look at how much our federal debt's doubled since 2015, it's massive. It's massive. And, we spend more just to service our debt than we do paying transfers to all the provinces. So if you want to kind of put it in perspective, $49 billion every year just to service our debt. I mean, think about what we could buy. Just think about that. Right. And we've got the cancellation of the carbon tax. We have the risk, all these taxes we've been paying. And then you wonder, well, how's the government going to pay for it? Well, they're going to pay for it by the thing that they talk about all the time, that they keep telling us they're not going to do. And that is bring in a capital gains tax, right? They'll tax what we own, or won't they? Kevin Klein, president of the Winnipeg Sun, political columnist and former minister of environment for Manitoba, was under the Conservative government at the time. He joins us now. Hi, Kevin.
Hi, Alex. Thanks very much for having me. Happy Easter.
They say that, when someone or a politician or a political party talks about something a lot, and the Liberal Party have talked about capital gains and taxing equity in our homes for a long, long time, they say they won't do it. And yet, I think you write a really timely piece about this that, well, yeah, they could. This is something that they're not talking about. Why do you think they will?
Well, I think they will because of what you alluded to off the top. We have no more money. We have no more sources for revenue to take from Canadians. And this is, if you will, a gold mine. The combined equity in Canadian homes, what people actually own after mortgages, is worth trillions of dollars. And that's not an exaggeration. It is worth trillions of dollars. And with the federal debt now over $1.4 trillion, they have to find this money somewhere. And I enjoy the fact that you mentioned the $130 billion in new spending with no talk about how they're going to balance the budget or pay for that. So this home equity really does become the next source of revenue. And let's be clear. This is not new. Government's been talking about this for a while. They've been having the Canadian Housing and Mortgage Corporation do studies on it. Mm-hmm. And they started including your home on the tax forms. So the work is in progress. And I spent time in government. I'll tell you, they have people and that's their job. Where can we find money? They hunt for money. And this is going to be on the target list.
Well, they never seem to find money where, the waste actually is, right? I mean, and okay, maybe they can just charge the capital gains on Liberal voters, right? Because they're all about this. Because for most of us, certainly those of us in the private sector, that's a retirement, right? Anything you take out of our home or whatever, that is it for savings for old age and certainly for generations under the boomer generation. That's all we've got.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and if you look at it, right, so I just did some average math on it and thought if somebody had a $500,000 home, they had $100,000 left on their mortgage, or they had a $600,000 home. So let's say their home equity is $500,000. And hypothetically, if the government charged 1% annual home equity tax, that's $5,000 a year. And let's say, just for fun, there's only 5 million homes in Canada. We know that there's way more. But let's say there's 5 million homes that have $500,000 equity. That's $25 billion a year into the government's pocket. Mm-hmm. Yeah. They're going to want to take that. And I think that they see that as an opportunity to play that game again, right? We're not going after your money. This is more of a friendly tax. This is a way for us to, make life better for everybody. And we're just going to tax those that, were lucky enough and smart enough, I guess, to pay off their mortgage, not to overspend, to control their spending, unlike what the government's done, especially for 9 years.
Yeah, well, when Mark Carney starts using words like government investment, I just go, okay, I'm out. Like governments don't invest, right? They're not investing in my pockets, so they're not going to invest in
the new one. Yeah, and I think you really see a lot of people. I got a lot of message. Oh, it's a conspiracy theory, and no, it is not. They have done this. They've actually looked into this several times.
Well, they tried to do
they've
it.
done it. It's leaked.
Yeah.
I mean, it's out there. We're running out of money. Again, off the top, you spoke about it. The fact that Canadians don't understand the last 9 years of very bad fiscal policy has put us in this position. Mm-hmm. And that's a fact, right? It's irrefutable. We're in a very, very, very bad position. They're going to have to get the money. And yes, he eliminated the public-facing carbon tax, and you got to replace that. So we're going to replace it against consumers. Sure. You take a home equity tax. In theory, when you explain it as a politician, and I've been around too many of them, it'll be a nice thing, right? Oh, well, we're only going to take 1%. Yeah, you shouldn't be taking anything.
And it'll be called a fairness tax, a caring tax. And it'll just be like when you move into a condo and they say, oh, it's just a little fee that we're gathering. And then we don't do it anymore. It's like it never stops being collected. But this is a reality, which is why you almost have to say to the young people, look, Gen X, we cannot afford to pay your bills too, because we'll have to pay for our stuff. You know, if you don't vote this election, you're on your own because there's not enough money to go around. So that's where we're at. And then, you know, this didn't get a lot of attention, as you well know, about this $40 billion that was basically spent by this government in the last couple of weeks. And the governor general was the one who approved this new federal spending. And it was done all under this special warrant. And I'm thinking, okay, who the hell allowed this? And how did they get away with it given Parliament was closed?
Well, this is interesting because I've experienced this when your government goes into an election mode. Of course, you have very limited powers. The ministers have powers to keep the government going and can do emergency spending and such. But I hear a lot of people complaining about how Trump manages his country and he's, implementing using special powers. But isn't this what we just did? Isn't this what the Liberal government just did? Gave that special power to spend $40 billion. And I can't find, I've done the research, I cannot find a single dollar that was spent to make life better for a Canadian.
Well, certainly, yeah. I mean, we've had a lot of, they talk about having our back in that, but I don't hear any EI packages being rolled out or special EI programs, for whatever, they were saying that they would do for those in auto sectors or those hit by tariffs and that. This is like, I don't even know what this money is for. It's just $40 billion on top of this new $130 billion.
Well, and it was $150 million to the CBC for emergency needs. Well, what was the emergency? In case they lose the election? Like, we gave them $150 million, and then you have a reporter in the White House basically doing Mark Carney's work by bringing up the Trump in the 51st state, which had gone quiet, right? Polls had started to change because of that. Then all of a sudden, out of the blue, coincidence? And was that 150 used for government to cover the election more? Did they need? That to me is political interference. And I sat in those seats. I was there. I've seen this. I would not be shocked. And I see where this money is going, and it's all to special interest groups as far as I can see. It doesn't help the average Canadian. You have more Canadians now than ever lining up at food banks. I have kids that can't buy a house, that make good money. They'll never be able to buy a house. And yet we could possibly have a Liberal majority by next week, which is the most, it is like, I kind of just can't believe the delusion, but that's where we're at. I'm as frightened by this as you are. I'm hopeful, though, that with the numbers we're seeing at the advanced polls, that people are finally going to say, okay, I need to exercise my democratic right. And don't look at personalities. That's what I've been trying to tell everybody as somebody who was in politics. Look at the policies, because what fiscal policy, other than spending your money and going deeper in debt, has Mark Carney put forward?
Yeah, I don't need to be friends with anyone. I just need to be able to afford my country that is safe and standing on its own. I'm out of time, Kevin. I very much appreciate yours.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you.
100%. That's Kevin Klein, president of the Winnipeg Sun.